I'm going to make an attempt at being fair with Ze Frank for a few minutes about the fact that he recently went down to my hometown in Cape May, given everything that's been going on for the last few years. Now, I did, in fact, extend an invitation to him last year, about a year ago now, in the spring, to come on down here to Florida, to Daytona Beach, and meet with me face to face and discuss all of this with me and give me some explanations, because I do not like the idea of falsely accusing somebody of being a member of a cult and abusing children if that is not the case. And so I considered the fact that it's perhaps I could be wrong about the fact that maybe about the child abuse, but maybe he's certainly in some kind of a secret society of some sort. And they typically take oaths of secrecy. So perhaps he's unable to publicly refute my accusations without giving away certain secrets that he is not allowed to give away. And considering what seemed to be, there seemed to be an offer, an invitation from them to join them, I figured at the very least he should be able to then give me some explanations in secret. If I'm off base in any way about the child abuse thing. Because if I am, if there's no human trafficking or child abuse, fine. Then I don't care. If there's no violating human rights, then whatever. However, he refused that invitation. He never showed up to Daytona Beach, Florida. At least I never saw him down here. And I kind of feel like that time has come and gone. It's past. The reason why I felt comfortable with extending the invitation to him since coming down here is because it felt kind of like neutral ground down here. I have only been down here, I've only lived down here for about a year and a half. I don't have any really strong community ties. I don't have really a lot of friends down here. I'm sort of friends with a few neighbors, but that's it. And as far as I know, he doesn't have a big, cult community down here. He might, but it's not where I live. At least I don't think. And I live in an area that's not isolated. It's kind of densely packed in together apartments. There are a lot of people around all the time. So I imagine it would be hard for them to try and hurt me, to try and hurt me, do something to me without witnesses. That's why I certainly wouldn't go to where he is. I think I already explained that in the last video. I'm not going to go to where he lives, any of the communities he lives in, because again, these people tend to flock to little communities that have a lot of their cult members in the community. And I value my life, and I don't want to just walk into a trap where like the whole neighborhood is made up of members of his cult and they could just make me disappear and nobody would know, because everybody within screaming distance is a member of his cult, right? Yeah, I'm not going to risk that. So yeah, it did feel like this might have been a good place, a good time, if ever he wanted to meet up, and give me some explanations and some assurances, so on and so forth. And plus, again, I pointed out in the last video, he just recently bought a house for over $1 million. He can afford the flight down here better than I can, certainly. I live in like something that's one step up from a ghetto. All right, So anyway, you want to go in, honey bunny? Sorry, I'm just trying to see if my cat wants to go inside. But it does kind of feel like that time has come and gone. And again, I'm trying not to misinterpret the things he's doing and saying, but the fact that he thought it was appropriate or acceptable or, endearing behavior or anything like that at all, if that's what he was thinking, to first go down to my hometown in New Jersey when I wasn't there, before coming to confront me face to face, he sooner goes down to where my family is, where my nieces and nephews are. Anybody who looks into me a little bit knows that I love my nieces and my nephews. I'm pretty close with them. I raised my oldest niece for a lot of years of her childhood while my sister was working her way through school. So that feels more like a threat to me than anything. And if he can't understand that, I'm going to go ahead and say he's got a boner for brains. So, yeah. And if he feels like I'm getting just way out of hand and I'm just being too mean, it's like, how do you not understand where the meanness is coming from? You are posing a threat to the children in my family. You'll sooner go near them. And given what I have been accusing you of child abuse, and you'll sooner go near the children in my family than you will come to me and give me explanations. If he can't understand why I'm upset, there's no help for him. It's like, sorry, not sorry, but my opinion then is you're a bit of a puss. If you think that I'm just getting way too worked up about something like this. And I think it's weird that, very shortly after I left New Jersey, you moved to New Jersey. Right, guys? Like, that's weird. I left New Jersey in the fall of 2023, and then he moved to New Jersey. They bought a house in New Jersey in the spring of 2024. So I left, they went there. But also, I think it wouldn't be hard if you pulled up if you did any kind of background check on me and went and looked at all the addresses where I've lived and the timeline, you would easily see that that I go back and forth to New Jersey. Like, I'll leave for a while, I'll move to another place, and I'll go back to Jersey for a little while, and I might leave for a while and then go back to Jersey for a little while. Like, left and went to Chicago for a while, went back to Jersey, then was in New York City for a little while, and then went back to Jersey, went back to Chicago, went back to Jersey, was in Jersey for many years taking care of my niece, then went to Philadelphia for a little while, then went back to Jersey. Went on the road in my RV, traveled around the country a bit, went back to Jersey, went down to North Carolina, went back to Jersey. So again, it's like, I don't know, is he just trying to inch his way towards a meeting with me, assuming that eventually I'll come back to New Jersey? I don't know. I'm sure that one of the reasons he moved to North Jersey was to be closer to his dad. But again, also, he could have moved to like Long Island, Brooklyn, north of New York City. His dad lives in New York City. He didn't have to move to New Jersey. It could have been a precursor to like, oh, well, I live in New Jersey now, and we come down to the shore for vacation, and I just happened to bump into you. Let's have a conversation now. It's like, that's so pussy. sorry for the crude language, but what, cowardly? But I feel like I've overused that one too. And the only conclusion I can come to for why he wouldn't come down and square things up with me, clear the air, is because I'm right. I'm dead on right, correct about the accusations that I'm making, that he is a member of a cult, secret society. So, you know what? I'm sorry, but secret societies basically are cults. They meet all the qualifications, including the major secret societies like Freemasonry. They're just cults that have gotten out of hand. And anybody who studies cults extensively, who's studied the history of cults, if you've read as much about different cults throughout history as I have, or listened to lectures about them as I have, then you would know that I'm spitballing these numbers, but I'm probably pretty close. 95% of all cults, eventually their behavior devolves into child abuse, usually of a sexual nature. If there's any children involved, those children are going to end up being abused within a cult, one way or another. So keep that in mind, guys. If you're ever noticing behavior of a person or a group of people that appears to be very cult-like, you should keep an eye out for, are there kids around, are there children around? Because good bet that if abuse and sexual abuse is not already happening to those children, it will. That is just, it seems to be just an unfortunate, it's just a natural side effect of a cult, because these what's the word I'm looking for? Not companies. They're not companies exactly. These situations, it's a situationship. These groups tend to be started and carried on by people who are highly narcissistic and egotistical, and they validate themselves based on gaining power over others, and that's quite often tied in with their sexual impulses. And they're also quite cowardly, so they're not going to take on people who are big and strong like them, or who are smart and understand how manipulation tactics work. So that typically adds up to physically overpowering, mentally, psychologically, emotionally overpowering children, because children are naive and small and they're easy prey. And or if not children, then again, underage minors, teenage girls, or young women, or just naive women, women who were born into cults already. So for example, those poor Mormon girls, Mormon women who were born into polygamous family communities, where they were just raised. They were born into a polygamous family. They were raised being told that it was normal and acceptable, that a woman should just be subservient to a man, that it's okay for her to be a part of a collection of wives. And she just never questioned it, and she was never given any access to another point of view in the world, because they're very closed off, close-knit communities. And so she doesn't know any better. So she's easily manipulated, and so she's an easy target for these kinds of men. Typically, they're men. So if they go for a woman, an adult woman, it will be that kind of woman. It would not be a woman like me who studies psychology and cult psychology and narcissism and how these things typically play out, because I'll see right through their bullshit and their tactics. And they're also quite lazy in some ways, and they just don't want to have to put in the work to actually gain the trust of a woman like that. So, and that's a woman, by the way, ladies. That's a real woman. Girls are girls. If they're super naive, I've seen grown adult women, quote unquote women, but they're not really women. They're still little girls. They're little girl minded. For many reasons. And again, I've said this in the past, like, those don't typically make good mothers, and they're not very good at protecting their children. And then, so then again, the next target is quite often their children. We've seen this, actually. There's one Mormon polygamous family, I forget the guy's name. I think his last name was Green. And this happens actually I've heard of this with a few polygamous families, where the man will marry the mom first. Like, the man will meet a woman who's a mom, who's not married, single, but she has a young daughter also, and he'll marry the mom first, and then he'll go ahead and marry the daughter within like a few years, sometimes within only like a year. So and a lot of times those women, again, they were already raised in a cult-like atmosphere, where they were told that it's acceptable for a man to have multiple wives and take on very young girls as wives. And so he preys upon the older women, the mothers. He takes them as wives, and then he convinces her that, it's time for me to marry your 13-year-old, 12-year-old daughter as well. And she just doesn't really question it. Easy prey. And that's just like a bunch of little girls. That's not a mom. So, yeah, sorry for going off on a tangent, but again, so I'm trying to be fair with Ze Frank here. I'm trying to be fair with him, but again, it's like, what the F did you expect my reaction would be to this shit? So, yeah. I always feel like there's something else I'm forgetting to mention. Bruce Springsteen. That's the last video I posted, full video, not the clip. I was trying to remember the name of a famous musician who's like from New Jersey area, and, he sings about that he's in love with a Jersey girl, and he sings like part of some of the lyrics, and they're talking about going down to the shore and the boardwalk and all that. So as I was saying, there are a lot of songs out there referencing my hometown, Cape May, Wildwood, the Jersey, that's most southern tip of the peninsula of New Jersey and the Jersey Shore. So it's kind of a famous tourist attraction. But yeah, I mean, at the same time, I hold true to what I said. It's like, Ze Frank certainly knows about me because of the accusations I've been making about him for 3 years in videos on my YouTube channel and in my blog. And he certainly knows I'm from Cape May. He knows what I've been saying about him. Any reasonable, sane person, I think, would want to stay away from the hometown of somebody making those accusations against them. But that's pretty brazen that he went down there. And again, especially knowing that I'm not there. So it's like, what should I take away from that shit? He knows I'm not there, but my family's there. The kids that I love are there. My oldest niece, who I raised like a daughter, is there. What should I take away from this? What would a reasonable, seasoned woman who isn't a total naive, girl-minded child, what would she take away from this situation? Right, guys? Right. Yeah. All right. I'll leave it there.